A frustrated CEO, a broken Ferrari, and a mechanic everyone ignored, until he did the impossible. What happened next shocked her entire engineering team and changed his life forever. Watch how one unseen genius rewrote his destiny in seconds. Let's get started. In downtown Los Angeles, evening lights washed over the streets as Ava Reynolds stood beside her red Ferrari, trying to hide her growing irritation. The expensive machine, her pride, had stalled again. She had already called 3 certified engineers from the dealership, and each left with excuses instead of solutions, worsening her mood. As Ava paced around the car, she jabbed her phone's screen. Venting her anger at customer support, she expected premium treatment for a premium car. Instead, she received apologies and promises. The engine misfired every time she accelerated, turning a luxury ride into a constant headache she couldn't ignore. Her frustration peaked when the tow truck driver refused to attempt further repairs, insisting it was beyond his scope. Ava clenched her jaw, already calculating the money and time she had wasted on this issue. That's when a soft, hesitant voice cut through the noise, surprising her completely. "Ma'am, I think I can help." Ava turned sharply. Standing a few feet away was a young mechanic, grease-stained hands, worn boots, hair messy from a long day's work. His expression was shy but steady. She had seen his workshop earlier, a small old garage squeezed between tall modern buildings. Ethan Cole didn't look like someone who should be anywhere near a Ferrari. His clothes were dusty, his posture unsure. To Ava, he looked like every underpaid corner shop mechanic who barely managed simple tune-ups. She opened her mouth, ready to dismiss him politely, but stopped when she caught his eyes. There was no arrogance in his gaze, only a quiet confidence. He studied the car as if he already knew what was wrong. Something about that subtle certainty made Ava pause. She sighed, deciding she had nothing left to lose. "Fine," she muttered. "Go ahead and take a look." Ethan approached slowly, trying not to appear overly eager. He had seen luxury cars before, but working on one was rare. Still, he believed machines were machines, each with a voice if you listened carefully. As he opened the hood, the city's noise faded, replaced by the familiar thrill of problem-solving. He leaned in, scanning the internal setup. His eyes sharpened as he traced the wiring and connections. Something didn't align with the Ferrari's standard configuration. A faint crease formed between his brows. He gently touched a section of the circuitry, already forming conclusions in his mind about the cause of the misfires. "Someone installed the wrong module," he murmured, almost to himself. Ava blinked. "What do you mean, wrong module? Ferrari engineers worked on it." Ethan pointed at the part. "This isn't the original, it's a cheaper, aftermarket version. It's interfering with the timing and airflow sensors. You'd never get full acceleration with this installed. Honestly, I'm surprised the car even starts." Ava stepped closer, disbelief tightening her voice. She had paid thousands for premium servicing. The idea that someone replaced a part without telling her made her blood boil. "Can you fix it?" she asked, her tone clipped. Ethan nodded. "Yes, but I'll need about 20 minutes to reset and rewire it." She crossed her arms, analyzing the young man. Everything about him contrasted the polished, overly confident dealership experts. Yet he spoke with precision and clarity. No jargon meant to confuse her, no false promises. His explanation was simple, logical, and direct. For the first time all day, she felt a flicker of hope. Ethan pulled a small toolkit from his backpack. Ava raised an eyebrow. He carried it with him like a professional, despite his humble background. He moved with surprising speed, detaching the faulty component, isolating the wires, and repairing damaged connectors. His hands worked with practiced finesse, revealing years of unspoken experience. While he worked, Ava watched him closely. His focus never wavered. Every action was deliberate, almost methodical. He didn't treat the Ferrari with fear or hesitation. He handled it with respect, as though understanding its personality. She wondered how someone like him could remain invisible in a city full of opportunity. As Ethan reconnected the last wire, he wiped his hands on a rag and stepped back. "Try starting it now," he said softly. Ava took a breath, settled into the driver's seat, and turned the ignition. The engine roared to life, smooth, powerful, flawless. Her eyes widened. It hadn't sounded this perfect, even when new. She tapped the accelerator lightly. The response was immediate and clean. For a moment, she didn't speak. She simply listened, truly listened, to the steady rhythm of a perfectly tuned engine. When she finally looked up at Ethan, her expression had shifted completely from doubt to shock. How did you do that when certified engineers couldn't?" she asked, stepping out of the car again. Ethan shrugged, looking embarrassed. "I study engines at night, all kinds, Italian, Japanese, German. I can't afford college, so I read manuals, watch engineering lectures, and practice on old scrap engines in my garage." Ava stared at him, taken aback by his honesty. In a world where everyone bragged about achievements, Ethan spoke like someone who worked because he loved the craft, not because he wanted recognition. His quiet humility made the moment even more astonishing. He had succeeded where experts had failed. "You're telling me," Ava said slowly, "that dealership engineers with years of training missed something you spotted in minutes?" Ethan nodded reluctantly. "Sometimes people depend too much on scanners and software. They forget to trust their ears and hands. Machines talk. You just have to pay attention." His explanation left Ava unexpectedly impressed. She took a moment to absorb everything. The noise of the city continued around them, but in that moment, all she could see was the young mechanic who had restored her car and shaken her assumptions. She had built a multi-million-dollar tech company by recognizing talent hidden where others never looked. "Ethan," she said finally, "what would you say if I asked you to come work for my company? Full-time, with real pay, real benefits, real recognition." He froze, stunned. No one had ever offered him anything close to that. Why me?" he whispered, unable to hide the disbelief in his voice. Ava smiled, a genuine one, "Because you see what others can't, because you listen to details people ignore, and because skill like yours shouldn't be hidden in a small garage." She extended her hand. "You fixed my Ferrari. Now I'd like you to help fix the future of my automotive division." Ethan stared at her hand, his chest tightening with emotions he didn't know how to process. For years, he had worked quietly, unnoticed, repairing cars others had given up on. He never asked for praise. He never expected opportunities. He had simply kept going because the work made him feel alive. Finally, he shook her hand. His voice trembled, but his eyes were bright. "I'd be honored, ma'am." Ava nodded firmly. "Then it's settled. Come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll handle everything else." Turning back to her Ferrari, she added with a grin, "Looks like I owe you a drive up the coast as thanks." As she drove away, the engine's perfect rhythm echoing behind her, Ethan stood on the sidewalk, unable to stop smiling. For the first time in his life, someone powerful had seen him, not as a nobody, not as a corner shop mechanic, but as a man with talent worth recognizing. The city lights glowed brighter that night as he walked back to his small garage. Tomorrow, his life would change, but for now, he simply enjoyed the quiet victory. A Ferrari had roared because of him, a CEO had believed in him, and a future he never imagined had finally opened its doors. Within minutes, Ethan rewired the system, adjusted the timing, and brought the Ferrari back to life. The engine purred like a symphony. Ava stood frozen, shocked by the transformation. No hesitation, no sputtering, just pure performance. She had never heard it run this perfectly, not even after official dealership servicing. Her jaw dropped as she stepped closer, listening to the flawless rhythm. It didn't seem possible that a single mechanic, working alone with a small toolkit, had accomplished what her entire engineering team had failed to do. She felt a mix of awe, confusion, and a surprising hint of respect. How did you do that when my engineers couldn't?" she finally asked, unable to hide her amazement. Ethan wiped grease off his hands, embarrassed by the attention. "I just study engines every night, old manuals, online lectures, anything I can find. I don't have a degree, so I teach myself." Ava stared at him, her expression softening with each passing second. She had met hundreds of employees in her career, confident, polished, highly trained, but she had never met someone who carried this rare combination of humility, instinct, and raw technical brilliance. It made her re-evaluate everything she assumed about talent. This quiet, overlooked mechanic had solved instantly what highly paid experts couldn't. She felt a sudden heaviness in her chest, the realization that sometimes the brightest minds existed in places society never bothered to look. "Ethan," she said slowly, choosing each word with care, "how would you feel about working for my company?" He blinked, confused. "Doing what exactly?" Ava stepped closer, her voice firm. "As our lead diagnostic specialist, someone who can recognize problems machines are too advanced to reveal, someone who listens differently, someone who sees details others miss." The sincerity in her tone made Ethan's heart stop. His eyes widened as the weight of her offer hit him. A job, not just any job, but a respected, permanent position with a future he had never imagined. His voice cracked as he whispered, "No one ever valued me." Ava's smile was gentle but unwavering. "Well," she said softly, "I do." For a long moment, Ethan couldn't speak. He felt the world around him blur, replaced by the warmth of finally being seen. Not for what he lacked, not for the degree he couldn't afford, but for the skill that lived in his hands and mind. Ava's belief in him felt unreal. He nodded slowly, breath unsteady. Yes, I'd be honored, truly." Ava released a small laugh, relieved. "Good. Tomorrow morning, come to Reynolds Automotive headquarters. I'll have HR prepare everything." She handed him her business card. "From now on, you're not just fixing cars at a small shop. You're building the future with us." Ethan looked down at the card as though it were solid gold. He had spent years fixing broken engines in a cramped garage, wishing he could do more, learn more, become more. Yet he never believed opportunities like this existed for people like him, people without college degrees or wealthy connections. As Ava watched him, she felt a sense of pride rise within her. Discovering untapped talent had always been her strength in business, but this moment felt different. It wasn't just about hiring someone brilliant, it was about giving a decent human being the chance he deserved. She walked around to the driver's seat and slipped inside the Ferrari. The engine responded instantly, smooth as silk. The entire car felt reborn. She glanced at Ethan through the window, seeing not a mechanic, but a hidden genius whose gifts had gone unnoticed for far too long. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said. Before driving off, the Ferrari glided away, leaving Ethan standing on the sidewalk with the faint rumble of the engine echoing behind him. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He simply stared at the card in his hands, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. When he finally made his way back to his garage, he looked around at the familiar clutter, old scrap engines, mismatched tools, a flickering bulb above his workbench. Everything looked the same, yet felt completely different. This little place had been his entire world. Now it was only the beginning. He sat down on a crate and closed his eyes, letting emotions wash over him. Years of struggle, long nights studying diagrams, trial and error repairs, rejection from schools he couldn't afford. All of it had led to a moment that appeared out of nowhere, a moment that changed everything. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the towering Reynolds Automotive building, feeling small beside the glass giant. People in suits rushed past him, carrying tablets and coffee cups. He felt strangely out of place in his clean but simple clothes, until the elevator opened and a familiar voice called his name. Ava stepped out, waving him over. "You're right on time," she said warmly. "Come, let me show you your new workspace." She guided him through the sleek hallways, past labs filled with advanced machinery and engineers in white coats. Ethan felt like he had stepped into another universe. They entered a large diagnostics lab, equipped with state-of-the-art tools, advanced sensors, and prototype car models. The room buzzed with innovation. Ava turned to him, eyes shining. "This is yours," she said. "You'll help us improve our systems, detect flaws early, and design smarter engines." Ethan stood frozen. "Mine? This whole place?" "Every bit of it," Ava confirmed, "and you'll have a team to support you." He swallowed hard, trying to steady himself as awe washed over him again. This wasn't just a job. It was a life he had never dared to imagine. One by one, engineers entered the room, curious about the new hire. They expected someone from MIT or Caltech. Instead, they found a humble young mechanic with calloused hands and deep brown eyes. At first, they were skeptical until Ava announced what he had done. "Ethan diagnosed and repaired my Ferrari in minutes," she told them, "something none of our specialized technicians could accomplish. Respect his skill. You'll learn from him." The room fell silent. Slowly, the skepticism faded, replaced by genuine interest and admiration. Over the next weeks, Ethan transformed the lab. He identified flaws in prototypes that software had missed. He upgraded diagnostic processes, saved the company thousands of dollars, and solved issues no one even knew existed. Word spread through the building. The quiet mechanic was a genius. His confidence grew, but his humility remained unchanged. He never bragged, never demanded attention. He simply worked, the same way he always had. Except now his talent had a home, and people finally saw him, valued him, appreciated him. Ava checked on him often, impressed each time. She admired not only his intelligence, but his character. The world had overlooked him, yet he never grew bitter. Instead, he grew better, stronger, brighter. And watching him rise reminded her why she had built her company, to create opportunities that mattered. Months passed, and Ethan became one of the company's most important assets. He designed a new diagnostic interface that revolutionized the entire automotive division. Engineers from other branches flew in to learn from him. Investors praised his contributions. Ava promoted him twice within the year. One evening, after a long day of testing new prototypes, Ava found Ethan standing alone in the lab, staring through the glass wall at the city lights. "Thinking about something?" she asked softly as she approached him. He nodded, emotion flickering across his face. "I'm just grateful," he whispered, "for all of this, for you believing in me. I still don't know why you took a chance on someone like me." Ava smiled, stepping beside him. "Because talent isn't defined by where you come from. It's defined by what you can do and who you are." Ethan looked at her, eyes shining. "You changed my life, Ava." She shook her head gently. "No, Ethan, you changed your own life. I just opened a door you already had the strength to walk through." They stood together in the quiet lab, the hum of machines surrounding them, both knowing that the moment was bigger than gratitude. It was about possibility, about unseen brilliance finally being recognized, about two very different worlds meeting and growing stronger because of it. Ava turned to leave but paused at the door. "You know," she added with a smile, "one day the world will remember your name." Ethan exhaled softly, a warm, humble smile spreading across his face. "As long as the engines run right," he said, "that's all the recognition I need." And in that quiet, glowing room, high above Los Angeles, their story found its perfect ending, not in fame, not in fortune, but in the powerful truth that sometimes the people no one notices become the people no one can live without.